In this video, I want to answer the question why I choose Giant bikes for a lot of my videos, because a lot of people have given me flack almost for focusing on Giant bikes. So I want to answer that question. Number one is it's simply the brand that I have access to. It's the platform that I use for my testing, plus bike testing, high versus mid trail bike testing, different kinds of tires and components, Garmin, power meter, how to work on a Fox fork. It's just simply the platform that I use for those kind of tests. Now, like I said in one of my videos, I am not sponsored by Giant in any form or fashion. I even tried to reach out to Giant through my local shop to see if I could get some kind of connection of getting bikes directly from them through a discount or maybe even demos. Nothing's happened with that so far. I'm just a little fish in their big pond, but whatever, you know, I still get great deals through my local shop. So whether or not Giant will help me out there one day, we'll see. So my local shop carries Giant and they carry Niner, which is good. I mean, I like both brands and I really like Giant, and I'll explain more why I like Giant and why it would be a brand that I would choose if I had to pick amongst other brands. There's other good ones that I like. I mean, I like Yeti, I like Santa Cruz, I like Niner. But for some of the big brands, Giant is what I would choose. Now, I really believe in shop loyalty. I almost would pick a shop before I would pick a brand, because having a good relationship with a shop is very important, especially when you're like me. You go through a lot of bikes, a lot of components. Years ago, I developed a really strong relationship with a bike shop where I used the connections that I had in my community through my local church and other things. I knew a lot of people. People were coming up to me asking me for bike buying advice. Where do I buy a bike? What bike shop should I go to? So I went to a shop that I liked, had good brands. That shop carried Specialized and Giant at the time. And I said, hey, listen, I'm gonna, if I send people your way, will you give me discounts on bike? They said yes. There was a point where I was almost getting bikes at cost because I developed such a good relationship. I was on their race team. I sent people their way. I brought them a lot of business. So it was a very mutually beneficial relationship. So that being said, my local shop is a Giant dealer. So that's why I have access to Giant bikes. Now, one reason that I really like Giant bikes is I like the way they spec their bikes. They don't use a lot of proprietary components. They use off-the-shelf Rock shocks, off-the-shelf Fox or SRAM or Shimano. I'll tell you a little story of when I kind of really gravitated towards Giant. And years ago, I was with another big brand. I'm not going to say the name because I'm not using this video to brand bash at all. This brand is awesome. But this was back when this brand was manufacturing their own shocks. And I had their cross-country bike, and probably like 3 or 4 rides into it, the shock failed. And it would just kind of free flow in its travel and then get real harsh and just felt terrible. So I sent it back. Great customer service. They sent me another shock, quick turnaround. It was like I was off the bike for like 5 days. Put it on the bike, 3 or 4 rides into it, same thing. Shock failed, exact same symptoms. Sent it back. It's taking me off, my mountain bike during this time. Got the shock back, failed again. Sent the shock back, failed again. This happened 7 times to where I just said, forget it. Obviously, there's an issue with these shocks. You're making your own shocks. You should go back to Fox, let Fox make them. They have now. Fox makes their shocks again, or they used to, and I don't think it's Rock shocks. But so that put a pretty bad taste in my mouth. I switched over. I got a Giant Anthem. It was a 26er Maestro suspension. Awesome bike, fast, I beat the crap out of that bike for 2 years. Had no problems. Not one loose pivot, no problem with the shock. So that being said, I just don't like proprietary components. And there was also a time where one of these other brands was putting like older Shimano cranks on and mixing and matching. I like the fact that Giant, like you look at one of the Anthems, it's straight up the SRAM GX Eagle all the way across the board, and SRAM guide brakes. They don't do a lot of mixing and matching. You know, the XT bikes are XT, the SLX are XL. You know, it's off-the-shelf components, you know, off-the-shelf rock shocks or Fox suspension. It's just, I don't like proprietary. Now, I know Giant does make their own cockpit, so handlebar, seat post, stem, saddle. But even that's pretty good. It's pretty decent stuff. I've had no complaints with it. Other than that, and the wheels. I mean, Giant makes their own wheels, but they make really good carbon wheels. They're not quite as compliant as Stan's, but they're lighter. So, you know, I even like their wheels. So that's number 2 is I like the way Giant specs their bikes. Number 3, and I've said this in some of my other videos, is it's really hard to beat the value of Giant bikes. Yes, I know there's direct-to-consumer brands like Canyon and other ones, but for bike shop type brands, it's hard to beat Giant. Let's look at, for example, the 2018 Anthem Advance Pro. You can get an Advance Pro full carbon frame, Fox step cast fork, Fox shocks, SRAM 12-speed drivetrain, carbon wheels that are tubeless, great tires, $4,900, under $5,000. Before I made this video, I just kind of browsed the internet and looked at a few other brands. I found one more boutique brand that was at the same price range, 29er cross-country bike, $4,800, XT components, Fox, but aluminum wheels. I looked at another brand very similar to the Anthem Advance Pro, full carbon frame, Fox suspension, house brand carbon wheels. I think it was either XT or SRAM, but the same level. $6,500. So, you know, what is that? $1,600 more for a pretty much equal bike. So, Giant is great value. Now, someone like me who has a trail bike and a cyclocross bike and a cross-country bike, it adds up. So, you know, good value. So those are my top 3 reasons. It's the brand I have access to. It's the platform that I use for my testing and writing and videos. Number 2, just the specs, and number 3, the value. Now that being said, I am going to start kind of branching out with bike tests. So, you know, like the video that I made with the looking at the 2018 bikes, the reason I did that in other brands is just because of the knowledge that I have of riding Giant bikes. I have ridden almost countless numbers of Giant bikes, like 5 or 6 or more trances. It's from 26ers to 27.5. Many different kind of Anthem bikes, road bikes, cyclocross bikes. Just because of the relationship that I have with the shop, I've ridden a lot of those bikes. So that's why I focused on Giant for that video. And by the way, I solved the issue with the audio. It was the software. The mic's fine, the computer is fine, so anyway, throw that in there. But what I was saying is I'm going to start to branch out. I have a buddy who just got a specialized e-bike, mountain bike. Looking forward to that. He said I could use it for a video test. That's going to be cool. I've had other shops contact me that sell other brands, like one of them, Orange. I've never ridden an Orange cycle bike. So other shops that are going to be sending me some demo bikes that I'll be doing some testing. So I am going to start to branch out. But for the other types of comparisons, again, just think of Giant as the platform that I use. Don't focus on Giant. Like my mid versus high price trail bike, I tried really hard to make that not a Giant thing, but you know, just what it is, a mid versus high trail bike. It could be anything. It could be a Specialized. It could be a Trek. It could be a Santa Cruz, a Yeti. It's just the platform. So just wanted to make this quick video to just put it to rest. Now I will say one more thing, and this can be a can of worms. I know it, but I just want to say it. Giant, and I've heard this from several different sources, that Giant makes bikes for other companies. Chances are, if your bike was made in Taiwan, whatever brand it is, big, small, whatever, there's a pretty good chance that it was made by Giant in one of their factories. So yeah, I know it's a can of worms, but I just have to throw that out there. I don't have a lot of really in-depth knowledge of the bike industry, and I mean, you know, I have probably more knowledge than just the average person out there riding on the trails, but I don't have the really inside knowledge. So I'm not going to go too far into that, but that is a fact. So again, just little tiny opening on the can of worms there. I'm not going to open that very much. So I just want to say it. So anyway, that's my video on why there's a little bit of a giant bend on some of my videos. Like I said, I'm going to try to branch out as I grow my channel. So there it is. As always, thanks for watching.